Hi, welcome to another episode of Rocky Mountain Ranch Research with me, Katie Paige. On this episode, we are going to be speaking with Vince, who has some very unusual encounters around the Trinidad Bridge near the Miller Ranch in Trinidad, Colorado. I'm looking forward to hearing from Vince and what he experienced out there, and I want to thank him for allowing me to share his encounter with all of you. So, without further ado, let's bring on Vince. All right, so here we are with Vince. How you doing today, Vince?
I'm doing well. How about you?
I'm doing all right. It's a beautiful day, sun is shining, snow on the ground. I love that out here in Colorado. So I really appreciate that you reached out to me to share your experience. And I know we talked for quite some time on the phone. I'm like, oh man, I hope that he'll share this with everybody else. So I really appreciate that you're allowing us to do this and bring this out for other people to hear what you encountered out there. You know, there's that mysterious Trinidad Bridge, and there have been several car accidents, like to a crazy degree. But this is just a straightaway. There's no curves, no hills, no nothing. Well, let's start at the very beginning. Just kind of introduce yourself. Tell us what you were doing out there in the first place and kind of, what happened to you. We'll just.
You bet. Absolutely. So, to preface everything, this had all started out because I'm disabled. I spend a lot of time, unfortunately, laying on the couch with my feet up, without much to do. So, I I decided I'd spend that time kind of exploring a little bit of the world that I hadn't really paid much attention to before. And I got into watching this show Beyond Skinwalker Ranch. It was really interesting. I really appreciated the fact that they approached everything from a scientific aspect as opposed to, uh, the typical that you would hear associated with a UFO or cattle mutilation story. I got really interested in that. And then they happened to do a story on the Miller Ranch, which happens to be about an hour south of me. I live here in Colorado. And I thought, I'm going to go out there to see that for myself because it sounded so outrageous. I thought, I'll bet you there's some high power lines or something near there that are causing some sort of interference. So, just on a lark and kind of as not a debunker per se, but as a skeptic, I thought, I'm going to go see that for myself. So I made the drive up there. Uh, I parked east of the bridge. There's a little gravel pullout. And I specifically parked there, one, because there was plenty of room, that it was safe. And two, because I had heard a specific story about a lady who had parked in her car there to make a cell phone call. And her car somehow uh, slid across the road into oncoming traffic. And I thought, wow, that's a heck of a story. That just doesn't happen. I'm going to see if there's some sort of a slant there, or maybe if it was icy, that could possibly happen. But I got there about, I want to say 10ish in the morning. Bright sunny day, August, I want to say 24th, 26th, somewhere in there of last year. And I pulled over and parked, got out, walked over toward the bridge in front of my truck. And I thought, well, I'm going to stand here, kind of take in the scenery, see what I can see. And it was the oddest thing. As soon as I stopped there to look around, I had this really uneasy feeling come over me. And I noticed all of a sudden that there was absolutely no noise,
Mm.
no sound at all. I couldn't hear the river is just below. The Purgatory River runs under the highway there. And I would have expected to hear maybe trickling water. There was plenty of water flowing through there, or wildlife, birds. Absolutely nothing, to the point where it almost felt like I was in a vacuum, separated from everything outside of me. And I had the strangest feeling that I was observing myself. I know it sounds crazy, but from 30, 40 feet above at like three different points, 30, 40 feet above, looking down, seeing myself standing there. And it was the weirdest feeling. And I brushed it off. I thought, okay, I must be exhausted from the drive or something. That's
How
very
far was the drive from your house?
about an hour.
Okay, so not too
I,
bad. Not
I'm
like
up near Rocky Ford. It's a nice leisurely drive through a beautiful area.
right.
And I thought, what the heck? And so I got back in my truck, took a quick 30-second video or so because there happened to be a car coming across the bridge. So I thought, okay, well, I'm going to see if anything's strange, no bumps, perfectly flat. Didn't seem like there was any visual obstacles that you couldn't see around. Nothing that would make it a dangerous stretch of road by any stretch of the imagination. So I slowly drove across the bridge west toward Trinidad. Didn't have anything happen. Didn't notice anything. Didn't see any high transmission lines. So about a quarter mile past the bridge, I found a place to turn around. Uh, Before I started headed back east across the bridge toward home, since I hadn't really seen anything that convinced me it was transmission lines, I decided to pull out my phone and put on the compass app. And I kind of held the phone over to the side where I could see it out of the corner of my eye. I know, stupid, dangerous, don't ever do this at home, that kind of thing. But so I headed back across the bridge, doing maybe 30-ish, 35 miles an hour, which is slower than the speed limit there, but there was no vehicles around. So
Mhm.
I wanted to be careful about it. So as I approached the end of the bridge, the east end where I had parked before, I did notice out of the corner of my eye the compass needle move about 5-10 degrees real quickly. Uh, I made note of it in my mind, thinking, okay, well, that was nothing drastic or dramatic. And while I was still, I think, processing that, a bird smacked right into the center of my windshield, and I just about had a heart attack. it
Yeah.
was it was certainly nothing I expected.
Yeah.
And within, gosh, I would say probably less than a second after that, the second bird hit.
Oh,
And it was solid on the front end, on the grill. I drive a pickup truck, an older Toyota pickup truck, and it's pretty hardy. But when that bird hit the windshield, I thought the windshield was going to shatter. I mean, it was that hard. And within another second, I think the third bird hit. And these were not like a flock of birds coming down the highway or anything like that. It was just random boom, boom, boom. Those first three were, I want to say, within about 2 or 3 seconds. And obviously, at that point, my attention's full. I'm a little bit taken aback by what had just happened. I've been, driving for 45 plus years, and I've hit one, maybe two birds in my life. And those at best were glancing blows off of a mirror.
yeah. Right.
And so this really got my attention. And as I continued down the road, I was a little bit discombobulated, thinking, well, do I pull over and go back to remove them from the road? I mean, what do you even do in this
Right.
situation? I felt horrible, but at the same time, I was still kind of shaken.
Yeah.
And in the next, I would say, mile or so, maybe a little more than a mile, there were four other birds hit, and these would just come out of the. It seemed like come out of nowhere from the shoulder of the road. It was all coming from the right hand side of the road, and just bam, bam, bam. And
So
at this
you're
point, I'm thinking,
telling
okay,
me that
somebody's trying to tell me something.
you're telling me that seven birds that
Seven,
just,
seven total,
oh my
and
goodness.
not all one flock. Not, I mean, these were hard, fast hits that, I don't know how hard of a hit it takes to break a windshield, but I think that was real close to it.
Yeah.
And so I decided not to. Okay, this is ridiculous. I don't know what is going on here, but I am getting the heck out of here.
Right.
And so I headed home. I got on Google right away and had to Google, use the AI search engine, I believe it is, and type in, okay, what are the odds of,
Yeah.
and
Right.
basically I put in the situation. It came out like 1 in over a billion were
Yeah.
the odds. And I I was still, I mean, I don't think I slept much that night. It
Oh,
really, really got to me. And of course, that night, all that kept going through my head was, what the heck was that seeing myself from above? I mean, by itself, I might have discounted it and said, okay, well, everybody has one of those, senior moments. But this really stuck with me, and it kept feeling like there's something important about this. This is data. This is something that I wish I could talk to a scientist about, somebody that could help me put it into the right frame of reference or whatever. Because when something like this happens, you only have anecdotal evidence for the most
hmm.
part. And, you know, when it happens to you, you believe it. And it's hard to convince somebody else. Now granted, I have the pictures of some bird feathers stuck in there,
Yeah,
and all that's well and good. But I since then have had some other experiences that have convinced me that there is definitely something out there. There's
yeah,
definitely a higher intelligence. It it sends messages in some weird ways sometimes,
yeah.
but
Well, before we get to those
that's
other experiences you had after that, I just have a couple follow-up questions to your encounter. Um, just recently, I myself experienced that kind of cone of silence that you mentioned. And do
uh,
you recall how the sounds came back to you? I mean, were you aware of when you noticed the sounds again, and can you describe that feeling or
once I got back in my vehicle
okay.
and started taking the video of the car coming across the bridge, that was the next time that I had a sense of really anything as far as sound, and I felt safer. Honestly, I know it sounds funny, but I felt safer once I got inside the truck.
Yeah,
Um,
because we stood out near the bridge right where you pulled the truck over, and you do have a sense of eeriness, like especially when other vehicles are coming by, because you know the history of the bridge, so you get that uneasy feeling. Did you have any other like physical sensations, dizziness or anything like that
well,
there?
it was a little bit dizzying when I was experiencing that looking down on myself thing,
Hmm.
and not to the point where I was going to fall over or anything, but like, okay,
Yeah.
what's happening?
Right. Did you have a sense of any missing time when you were there? And to me, when you had, you're looking at yourself from above, that reminds me of very reminiscent of like a near-death experience. So did
Right.
you feel like kind of disconnected or out of your body? You must have, and how long did that last? A few seconds or minutes?
So I actually thought about that
Hmm.
once I got home. I thought, okay, even though this was probably just a real brief amount of time, how long was it? I
Yeah.
mean, was I standing there like a deer in the headlights for a while? And so I looked back, I had to actually look back at my phone for the time and date stamp on the pictures I took.
Hmm.
And it turns out I was really only in the area there from roughly 10:30 to 10:45.
Okay.
So if I did miss any time, it couldn't have been much. So, but I did specifically think about that because it was so impactful having that view down
Yeah.
that I thought, this was very impactful. It must have been at least, a minute or something. But I really can't say because I have accounted from 10:30 to 10:42 on the phone pictures.
Hmm.
So I'd have to say no, but yet it was so impactful just in the brief time that it happened.
Yeah. Wow. So after this event, okay, I mean, that would shake anybody. Seven birds hitting your vehicle. I mean, you know the history of the area from, you're curious, you go out there, which I love that, by the way. I think people are curious, should go try, be careful though, if you're going to go experience
Yes.
things. But since that event, so you get home, you're shaken. Have you experienced anything else since that time?
So I do have kind of a constant ringing, and I'm not going to call it a ringing in the ears because it's really not. It's more like it's completely inside the head. But
Mm.
I really don't know how to describe it. when you used to have hearing tests as a kid, you get that really high pitched
Mhm.
tone, and they tell you to hit the button when you hear it. And it's almost like that level where you're anticipating it coming and you hit the button
Right.
because you think it's going to be there. But just above that, it's not, it doesn't bother me. I'll say
Mhm.
that. It's always there. And I will say it does get very much stronger when I meditate.
That's
I'm
interesting.
doing a
And that's
lot of,
since your encounter at the bridge that this is amplified, or did it
yes.
just begin there? Yeah, that's really interesting.
Well, I actually had an experience uh, prior to the bridge as part of this learning about different things, paranormal, all of that. I came across something called HemiSync,
Hmm.
which was an old program the CIA used back in the 70s, uh, part of Project Gateway, I believe it was.
Hmm.
And I was really interested in that. And I had been looking for ways to help pain control. I have a disability in my legs and feet, and I really don't like hardcore medications. So I thought, well, maybe meditation helps. So that's how I kind of got into it. And I was, uh, if you know anything about it, there's like 8 waves and maybe 6 tracks on each wave, roughly, and they're available on YouTube. You can see them on there for free. But I thought I'll try that out. And so it was only the second track. They're about 30 minutes apiece.
Hmm.
And I'd gone through the first one, which is an orientation. And the second one, I kind of went off book, I'll call it. I was only maybe 10 or 15 minutes into it. And I got this buzzing in my body. And it was like electricity, but uh, more like I was surrounded by this buzzing, like it was physically around me. Um, and I went, it, can't even tell why, but I went in my mind through the air to this mountain lake that I used to go fishing with my brothers and my father when we were young. And all of a sudden, there was my father. And he passed away about 5 years ago. And I mean, I was having a conversation with him that was so real, and
That's,
I couldn't discern it from right now.
yeah.
And it was incredible. I mean, I was taken aback. I mean, my heart was pounding, and I asked my father, "Is my brother up here too?" Because my brother had passed away some time ago,
Hmm.
and he says, "Yeah, right across the lake."
Hmm.
And there he was. He waved at me, and I, I, I was speechless. I mean, I was literally pouring words out of my mouth, knowing this wasn't going to last. And like, Dad, I don't know how this happened. Oh my God, I miss you. I love you. If I can figure out how to do this again, I am definitely coming back. This is incredible. And I could feel that tugging that was pulling me back. And I, needless to say, at that point, I usually do that laying in bed with a pair of VR goggles
Hmm.
because I have to lay down quite a lot. And I threw off the goggles. I ran out to the kitchen and I told my mother, "You won't believe what I just did." and and I told her all about it. And, I think it actually kind of relieved
Hmm.
some of her pain that she's had for years.
Hmm.
And, from that point on, I kept doing it. I've gone through the gateway tracks now 3 times, and there are things you can get better at.
Hmm.
It just takes practice, and I think this is something anybody can experience. I think it's part of being a human being.
Yeah, for
Uh,
sure. I
it's
think
it's
it's
part of your
interesting that,
intuition.
yeah, I think it's interesting that you have that piece of it because through my research and investigations, even with talking to the Millers out there in Trinidad, these experiences, and even with the mutilations, I find it fascinating too that they target certain ranchers or, they have that hitchhiker effect also in their home. But the fact that you're doing the Gateway Project, I do them as well, the energy conversion box and that,
Yes,
yes. Put all
yes,
your troubles and cares and worries in the box and close the big heavy lid. I love that because we're all so stressed out right now. So just even get in that moment. But it seems like when we disassociate, we seem to connect into something. So I find it interesting, an interesting piece that you experience these things in and around the Trinidad Bridge, while at the same time experimenting with the Semihink and the Gateway program. So, those things tend to tie together. But the
Yes.
bird thing, the birds, 7 birds, did you feel like, first of all, there's a military training out there? Was it kind of near that area? Did you feel like
So
it was targeted towards you specifically or a random event, or did you take it as a warning, a threat? What was going through your head? Because that would scare anybody if that happened.
on my way there, I actually didn't even realize Fort Carson does have a military base out in
Hmm.
that area. It's called the Pinyon Canyon Maneuvering Site, I believe.
That's right.
And the only reason I even know is because as I was driving out there that day, there was just a ton of dust out on the horizon. And I thought, what the heck? And then
Hmm.
I happened to pass by the entrance gate there. So I know there is that military base right there, and I believe it encompasses several thousand acres. So it's a pretty large base. Um, that being said, the feeling I got from the birds was instant, malevolent, like mad,
Okay.
uh, like you're not supposed to be here,
Interesting.
or something to that effect. Like get out of here. And
Okay.
not that I had done anything wrong,
Right, right.
but then later, of course, I went right down the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Every little thing that happened, I had to analyze. I had to Google it. I had to research it, even to the back to my childhood, my rearing. As I grew up Catholic,
Hmm.
pretty strict Catholic family. Church every Sunday. I was an altar boy for 4 or 5 years. And of course, when you have that frame of reference from your past, you sometimes try to put things into that frame. And first thing I thought was, oh my gosh, Purgatory River.
Yeah.
And Catholics believe in heaven, hell, and purgatory, if you're not quite there yet.
Yeah.
So I thought, oh my gosh, what have I done that maybe this is telling me I'm going not to heaven because something I did didn't jive.
Yeah.
So you go to all kinds of different places, uh, and this has kind of brought up a lot of my desire to study and understand religions as well.
Hmm.
And what really triggered some of the things I've seen was the work of Diana Pasulka, I believe is her name, and she studies a lot of religious history and whatnot, and how a lot of UFO events were possibly listed as, oh, this was a miracle, or this happened, or flaming shields on the Roman battlefield. It's all how you interpret what you see or what you experience, and what box you put that in. As people, we don't have a box for these kinds of experiences.
Yeah.
So I say I put them in my X Files folder, and eventually a lot of those things start to align,
Yeah.
and you start to realize, okay, well, yeah, there's a higher intelligence. Is that higher intelligence, God or this or that, or is it alien, or what is it? Well, I don't know, but I can certainly say it's there. I know it's there, and
Right.
I I'm happy about it. I think that's wonderful. If there's something that can teach human beings how to be better,
Yeah.
I mean, look at the world today. If there's something that can help us, that can help us evolve rather than devolve,
Hmm.
that's great. That's outstanding.
Right.
And I think these things led me into looking more into frequencies, resonant frequencies, and everybody has their own frequency that they vibrate at.
Yep.
And there's definitely something to that. You can look back at Nikola Tesla's work that he did right here in Colorado Springs in the early 1900s. The guy was amazing. I think he had some sort of communication
Hmm.
with a higher intelligence, and I think he was intelligent enough to be able to interpret it for what it truly meant. And he's always said everything in the universe is all about energy, vibration, and frequency.
Yeah.
And there's definitely something to that. I really am looking forward to getting this book I ordered off of Amazon called Malcolm Bindle Notes. It ties everything together. It's almost like a unifying theory. It works with frequency, the color spectrum, the electromagnetic. It's incredible. Just reading on the notes. I'm really looking forward to digging into
I think that's an interesting piece of a lot of these unique experiences, so personalized for each individual, and it seems as though it shakes us. And I can tell the encounter you had out there shook you to the core and kind of set you on this path. And for fair warning out there for everybody, at least for most people, once you get on that path, it just, you can't really get off of it. Even if you try, it sort of something will happen, it pulls you back in there. So,
that. Exactly.
it sounds like that's what happened with you here. And it's cool you had that experience with your father and your brother, and you were able to share that with your mom, because these messages are good. And so even though it was quite frightening for you to hit these birds and you felt kind of like, get out of here, you're not welcome here. And I wonder about that too in that area. It's just like all of Colorado and the Midwest for that matter. We have these interesting history there, right? So sacred grounds or something, and with the mutilations happening out there, maybe there's something out there that doesn't want us out there or tinkering around or poking the hornet's nest, so to speak. And I know that when we had left the Miller Ranch, we accidentally turned to the right instead of to the left, back towards the bridge, and we kind of went into this treat area. And just like what you were talking, the feeling instantly changed, to where you almost, did you have a sense of that as well, of like being watched? Like, it was an uneasy feeling, but it seemed to be transient. So it moved. It was definitely around the bridge. It was definitely in the street area parallel to the bridge. Did you have a sense of that being watched or foreboding?
You know, because I stayed just on the highway,
Yeah.
just that spot where I had stood and had that experience was, I didn't feel so much like I was being watched as something was being manipulated,
Mm, okay.
because I truly felt like it was me looking down from three different viewpoints simultaneously at myself.
Yeah.
And, to me, that means something in my mind was manipulated to think that.
Yeah.
Is the only logical thing I can think, right?
Right.
Um, that's not the kind of thing you would make up. I mean,
No,
who
no.
wants to see
And I mean,
themselves?
yeah. And I know with Beyond Skinwalker, they're doing some testing there and they are getting some very unusual readings and energetic anomalies there. So perhaps that would, answer for some of the experiences you had there, because it's just energetically different. Um, so wow. I just, one other question, I don't want to take too much of your time, but did you ever have encounters like when you were younger or anything that you remember, as far as unusual events?
There was, and I never correlated it until here in the last year, when I'm starting to understand, hey, some of these things you don't pay attention to at the time,
Right.
but then if you think back on them, wait a minute.
Yeah.
So when we were younger, we used to go up near Laramie camping quite a bit,
Oh,
and we had a little Honda 50 for the kids to all share when we were up there. Of course, I was the oldest, so I always trumped everybody else and said, I got to take it.
yeah.
So Dad would get onto the gravel road, the Forest Service road, and he'd stop and let us pull the bike out of the camper, and I would kind of drive ahead of them as he drove behind. So we were headed up there one night, and I want to say, gosh, I must have been in sixth or seventh grade at that point.
Okay.
But it was getting dark as we came up the road. I was a little bit farther ahead of Dad than his headlights shone the road for me, and the little mini bike didn't have a headlight. It was just a little smallest thing you can ride on wheels. But all of a sudden, the bike died on me. And I thought, oh man, that's not good. I just put gas in it before we left.
Hmm.
So kind of got over to the shoulder of the road. I shook the bike back and forth to see if I could hear gas, and I could hear gas sloshing in it. So I couldn't tell you why I quit. But then I could hear Dad coming up behind me. I didn't hear his engine. I just heard the tires on the gravel, kind of
Hmm.
slowly coming up. He doesn't have his headlights on, and he just comes to a stop, and the Bronco wasn't running. I thought, okay, he's stopping to help me out, trying to figure this out. Why did the engine? The little tiny middle 50cc mini bikes, they had what was called a magneto for the electric charge rather than a battery.
Hmm.
So that came to be important to me later on. But Dad says, "What's going on?" I said, "The bike just died. I can't figure it out." And he says, "Yeah, there's something wrong with the Bronco too. Maybe could be a plug fuel
Really?
thing." And so uh, he messed around under the hood for a little bit, old plastic filter in there. Sometimes you'd shake it and blow it out, and everything would be fine. You start the truck back up. So he did that. Couldn't have taken him more than 5 minutes. Started the Bronco back up, started up fine, turned his headlights on, came back out to help me, and I gave it one kick, and the bike started right up.
Hmm.
And I thought, that's weird. But, I mean, it's pitch black out there. When you get up to the Laramie area and all that,
Yeah.
it's just pitch black. And, I never saw anything odd in the sky or anything like that. But I started hearing a lot of these stories once I, of course, went down this rabbit hole
Right.
about vehicles being affected on their electrical systems when there's that certain whatever electromagnetic interference that craft or whatever put out. And I
Yeah.
thought, well, it had to have been something like that to affect two different vehicles, right?
Yeah. And that's a very active area, actually, right in there between Cheyenne and Laramie. I know we have some parks and camping in that area, so I'm thinking I'm kind of have a mental picture of where you're talking about. I think there's and I know I'm gonna mess this up, but it's called Vonnevu or Vondevu, but it's a very sacred site right in that same area, so that is an active area. Was this in the 70s, perhaps?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, it had to have been. It had to have been mid 70s ish.
Yeah, that's what I kind of was thinking because that's right around 1974 was the Carl Higdon case out there in Medicine Bow. So
Oh,
again, a
wow.
very active, yeah, and the McGuire Ranch is out in that area. And so,
Yeah, this
yeah,
this would be the Medicine Bow
yeah.
is where we
Yeah,
were.
yeah. So, you may have encountered something there because it is very active. And as we often do, typically when you are open and investigating these things, you'll start, oh yeah, and then there was that, and then there's this, and it seems like when you're prone to having these types of experiences in your life, you're just one of those people, and typically those people are more intuitive speaking, and the fact that you're doing the gateway tapes and that kind of opens that channel up. So it doesn't surprise me there. But I really appreciate you taking the time and sharing this with all of us because it's just more strange anomalies around that area, and yeah, I know for me, at least when I was out there, I got that dizzy sense. I didn't experience a cone of silence, but boy, that'll certainly, if you experience something like that, it is noticeable and it kind of shakes you to the core. And then to hear about the seven birds, I was like, what the heck's that about? And to me, it all points to just some weird anomaly out there. And maybe perhaps the military's out there messing with energy weapons or things we're not aware of in the background that could be affecting, the wildlife
Yeah,
and the birds
who
and out
knows?
there. I don't know, but how strange and how scary. And I hope that's your quota for hitting anything, right? You're done. You don't have to worry about that the rest of your life, But
Yeah,
so do you mind me asking too, were you in the service?
I was I was in the service right out of high school
Okay.
for just I was on a 3 month vibe, so I did three active, five reserve. Uh, wasn't that exciting. Not much to talk about. I was a hospital corpsman.
Okay.
I was basically land based at Balboa Hospital,
Yeah.
so not a lot to talk about. But my father was Air Force. My grandfather was Pearl Harbor survivor. So
Hmm.
there's a history of military in the
Yep.
family.
Well, thank all of them and you, and I know they're past, but thank you for your service. And
Absolutely.
yeah, yeah. But
Well, I just hope that, maybe something could be gleaned from this
mhm,
because even if it's something simple, that many accidents on that stretch
yeah,
of road, there has to be a reason. And thankfully I was looking out for anything odd,
yeah,
so I was somewhat braced for something, but nothing like that. And
yeah.
I could easily see how somebody just randomly going down a road, getting hit by that many birds, that could very well cause an accident.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
Yeah, you
whether
would
it's
think they
simple
would. I
or,
think they'd put like a flashing, and I don't recall seeing one. I don't know if you recall seeing one, but warning, like especially right around that maybe mile, 2 mile stretch there, because it's just straight away, but maybe
yeah,
slow down the speed limit a little bit. I mean, because it has this strange anomaly, and they need to be warning drivers and people that.
that's what I kind of thought. That's why I had mentioned, I would like to get in touch and report it to, like, say, the roads department or something,
Yeah,
but
right.
it sounds so crazy. Who's going to believe me, right?
Yeah. Well, we believe you. So, and we appreciate you sharing this with all of us. And
Yeah,
yeah, if anything else happens, please reach out, and let me know. I'll be curious to
absolutely.
follow up with you on this for sure. So,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, it's important. If more people speak up about these things, then we'll have more data and maybe can find some answers. So, again, thanks for being here.
you bet.
Thanks for watching. I hope that you'll share, like, and subscribe. It really helps me out. And be sure to check out RockyMountainRanchResearch.org and check out the store. There's Rocky Mountain Ranch Research products, glasses, mugs, specially designed t-shirts and hoodies that I designed personally, and anything you can do to help me help support the channel and the work that I do. So I really appreciate it in advance, and I hope that you all have a fantastic rest of your week or weekend ahead. Thanks for watching.